welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Thursday, February 22nd. We are here live. The big question is whether we're going to have any calls or not. Seems to be a lot of news this morning about some pretty massive cell network outages. It looks like AT&T is the big problem right now. But at one point, it looked like almost every cell carrier in the country was reporting some sort of an outage. Probably a good day to talk about being prepared again while I wait and see if anybody has service to call me. We have AT&T, we're fine here, but our call screener, Brittany, has AT&T. She has no service on that one. She has a T-Mobile phone. She has service on that. I saw somebody posted this morning. They're in the Chattanooga area. Him and his wife both have AT&T service. One of their cell phones showed SOS only. The other one was working just fine, standing right next to each other. Not even sure how that's possible. Well, we might be testing our system later today. I've been trying to get to it all this week, but it's been kind of crazy. So hopefully today we'll start working on that. We don't seem to be affected by any of the outages right now. We've got good cell signals and good internet, so we'll keep going here. Calls are starting to come in. Jump in and join us. It is a free-for-all for this first hour. We do only have an hour, so if you want to jump in, do it now. And we will be followed by Rolling Toe, as long as all the technology holds up. So I'm also seeing a lot of reports online right now of telematics in trucking being affected by this. So ELDs and other tracking technologies and dispatch technologies are seemingly affected by this as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. If you've had anything like that happen, if some of the technology in your truck or your operation isn't working, and you can call, and we'll talk about it. I did see yesterday, I think I've talked about this before, I have an app that monitors solar activity because all of our technology is susceptible to solar flares. And yesterday there was a very, very large solar flare, and then another one went off this morning within minutes prior to the outages showing up. Then, of course, there are the conspiracy theories that say this is a cyber attack, but the mainstream media is going to try to report it as something else. Who knows? It is just a reminder that all of our technology we've built our life around is very, very susceptible to a lot of problems. And we are seeing more and more of those problems, and I expect it to get worse. I haven't seen it yet. I missed this one somehow, but this morning I was reading Tucker Carlson did an interview, I think it was with Dennis McQuaid. Dennis McQuaid made a documentary about the grid going down. I'm going to go watch that later today, too. Then Tucker Carlson did an interview with them, and Tucker is basically claiming, from what I gather in this episode, that the grid is going down. That's kind of a scary thought, but when you start to think about it, I always think about drivers being away from home because that exacerbates all of these problems. You know, if you're home locally, at least in a local area, and the cell phone goes out, at some point you can be back together again and communicating. What do you do when you're 2,000 miles away and there's no communication? Our banking system, access to money, runs on these systems. This is why I talk about having cash. Because if you are in an area and the banking systems are down and you don't have cash, you're not going to have access to much of anything. So I'm not talking about having a $20 bill in your wallet. I'm talking about if you're traveling away from home, you should probably have several thousand in cash. Could make a huge difference. You know, it seems kind of crazy to even be talking about these things, but I've been talking about them for several years, and it looks like it's happening. Maybe this is just a solar flare, but that can happen at any time. So we have become so dependent on all of our technology that we really don't know what to do when some of it goes out. And it looks like this is going to become a much more common thing, whether it's a solar flare or a cyber attack, which cyber attacks are real. We are very vulnerable to them, probably more vulnerable than any other country in the world because we just depend so much on our technologies. Let's get to some phones and find out what might be going on. Phone calls are coming in. I guess that's a good thing. Everything seems to be working for us right now. So let's get started in Florida. Matt, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin.
What's on your mind today?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have Verizon, and my phone seems to be working fine. But a friend of mine loading in Orlando today, he's AT&T. He has absolutely nothing other than the SOS, an emergency call. But
and here's the interesting thing again. When I talk about when we see things happening personally, and we're talking about a nationwide outage, that's a pretty big deal. So right away, Brittany's phone isn't working. Her AT&T phone isn't working, but her T-Mobile phone is. People I know and interact with online, I've seen at least 4 today report that their phone just is not working at all, AT&T. So there are lots and lots of reports. This is a pretty massive outage.
Yeah. And then my one broker, which they're out of Tampa, I could not email in my bills from delivering this morning.
Yep.
But I think there's something different there. They're going through a change in updating emails, and the email just isn't working at the moment. But
okay.
I don't think it's related.
Yeah.
Because there's other reasons it might not be working other than this.
Well, part of our problem is all of these systems have become so complicated and intertwined, you don't know if that could be causing part of the problem.
Yep, exactly.
I think the lesson is that we've been talking about this kind of stuff happening, and it's happening more and more often. And I don't think that's going to slow down or stop. I think it's going to get worse. And again, it would be really bad and inconvenient for everybody, but it's much worse when you're 1,000 or 2,000 miles away from home if you're not prepared for something like this.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've had to buy fuel with cash.
Yeah.
But I had it happen here maybe 3 years ago, and it was a regional thing. Something with the payment system went out.
Right.
And, of course, I had planned my fuel stuff. It was the cheapest fuel around, and sorry, we can't take any electronic payments.
Well, think about
go back out to my truck. I got to dig in my hiding spot and pull out my stack of $100 bills, and I bought $1,500 worth of fuel.
At the very least, somebody should have enough cash on hand to get them home with the truck. Enough fuel so if you're at your farthest point, you've at least got enough cash to get you home with fuel. That should be the bare minimum. The other thing we have to remember is there are so many ways that this could occur. Like you said, that was one outage of the payment system itself. We know that they attacked refineries through their software. That was a targeted attack. We had that one. They've attacked food facilities through their software. They can attack the grid itself. They can attack the payment system. If that's what's going on, they're attacking the cell phone network because so much of our communication now travels across that cell phone network.
Yeah, and all the controls and same thing. We talk about the shipping industry, the ocean-going ships, and just think those terminals and all the computerized to organize and even know where a container's at. If that system got shut down, they couldn't unload a ship.
Right.
Manually, they could do it, but how do you keep track of anything?
That's the problem. Right.
20,000 containers on a ship nowadays.
Yeah. One ship. Yeah, again, we could come back to our global supply chain has become so complicated that it is susceptible to all kinds of crazy stuff that could happen now.
And just speaking of that, I just catching up on Brent Hutto's podcast,
Yeah.
Freight Nation,
Yeah.
because he just started it a couple months ago. So, but he interviewed a guy in the shipping industry and with what's going on in the Red Sea. It was probably at least a month ago. But interesting thing I learned in there, why it doesn't seem to be as big a deal as we think it should be, is because the freight rates were so high the last couple of years that these large shippers, they had large profits, so a lot of them have ordered brand new ships.
Yeah.
Them ships are now coming online, so instead of trading off and getting rid of their older ships, they're just keeping them in service. So they have the capacity added right now, as you know, things already had slowed down, so the capacity to add the ships to fill in them extra 11 days of travel, it's there. I mean, there's still the cost of it, but if we didn't have that extra capacity right now, this would be much worse than what it is.
Yeah, which is really kind of Diesel. What's going on? We've got people working at the house today, and they're all arriving right at the moment, and Diesel's going a little crazy. Yeah, the whole big picture kind of here that we keep hearing about with these kinds of disruptions. And then let's think about this. So, I'm thinking here, a lot of people now have been moving to, more and more people now use some sort of cellular internet even at home. That's becoming more common. I have a combination. I'm using some AT&T cellular right now, plus the Starlink. One of the things I've said that's a big advantage with Starlink is when the power goes out in your local area, if you have Starlink and you have at least a way to power up your Starlink equipment, which wouldn't take a very big backup, you at least still have internet access. So because those satellites are never going to be affected by a power outage where your local internet is. During this last ice storm that we had out here in those extreme cold temperatures, we lost our local internet for like 5 days. Didn't affect us at all and then a lot of people started using their cell as their backup, and that network got so jammed up you couldn't use it, yet Starlink was working great. But if we think about that, did you see what this news about Russia that they won't really release yet, they just keep hinting at?
No, I'm pretty disconnected from the news.
Yeah, so there's this, some senator came out just last week and said, he kind of spilled the beans and said, hey, look, there is a major national security threat that we're not talking about. And I guess they're hinting at it. I haven't seen this verified anywhere yet, but they claim Russia is ready to launch some sort of satellite space-based system.
Oh, yeah, I have.
Where they will be able to target and take out satellites.
Yeah, and I mean, this is way beyond our pay grade, because Elon Musk addressed this a couple of years ago, back when Ukraine started.
Right.
And he said that shooting down a satellite in space is not as easy as people think it is. There's way more
I'm sure.
technology involved than anything on the surface here inside the planet, because in the planet here we got GPS. Well, out in space that doesn't exist.
Right.
I mean, obviously, you can ping the signals, and there's all kinds of frequency, we've had for a long time on different missiles, that heat-seeking and that type of stuff. But that'll be interesting if that truly comes about. But
yeah,
I wonder, if we have close to the same top-secret ability
from
that we've never admitted.
From what I can gather, there are two places where we may be in trouble that we don't seem to be up to date on. This is one of them, even though Trump attempted to start the Space Force. Have you heard anything about that in the last 3 years?
No.
I mean, it exists. Trump started it, but I have no idea what they're doing. We never hear anything about it. So we're behind in that area, I believe, and it sounds like Russia may be more advanced than we are. And then the other area where a couple countries are more advanced than we are, and we know it, are these hypersonic missiles.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting world. The big one that keeps blowing my mind is just within our own country here in the border in Texas and all that, and all the conversations about all this is going to happen. It'll start another civil war, and I've always how in today's society, how does a civil war really start? Where do you draw the lines?
I know, right?
It's not half the country against the other half the country. It's this area against this area, and then there's a bubble inside of that area that's the opposite.
Right.
But then when Texas starts saying they're fighting the federal government, and 17 other states are backing Texas, well, this to me looks like that's how a civil war could easily start.
That would be kind of the definition. Yes, so you're exactly right. That was actually going to be my open this morning until I woke up and started reading all these outages going on. I watched a documentary last night, and it was pretty damn scary about how this whole migrant thing in Texas has changed and nobody's paying attention. And this is something I've been watching for about 3 years, and I didn't really catch on to this either. So think back to right after Biden took office, even right before, when we knew he was going to be president. Remember, there was all these reports, there's another 4,000 person caravan at the southern border of Mexico, and they're making their way through. They'll be here in a couple weeks. Remember all those reports?
Yep, because, Trump was still president when that big caravan was coming through Mexico, correct?
But they were predicting that they were coming because Biden had really kind of pre-announced that he was going to, take away all these rules that Trump had put in place, the stay in Mexico order, the other things that these people already knew, and they started heading here. And we knew that. But what's changed, and I didn't realize this, the stories were always of all these people walking, and it's going to take them weeks to get through Mexico. And then they get to this one place where people get on top of the trains, and there were these videos of, 1,000 people on top of a train. None of that's happening anymore. That has completely changed now. And what's happening now, every single person coming through Mexico to get to that border is paying somebody. Nobody gets in free anymore. The cartels have taken and these people are not walking anymore either. They're being transported. There are transport companies. Everybody gets a piece of the pie. And these coyotes and these groups run by the cartels just bring 50 or 100 people through at a time, and there might be 7 or 8 checkpoints, and they have to stop and pay other cartels to get through. This has totally been taken over by the cartels. Nobody is walking through Mexico anymore. And here's the thing. Think about the numbers we keep talking about. How many people are coming across that border every day? Tens of thousands a day. In this documentary, they talk to one of these guides who does this every week. He's been doing it for about two and a half years, he said, since the time this whole thing started to shift. He brings in 100 to 150 people a week, and each one of those people is paying between $10,000 and $12,000. That's the going rate to get through Mexico to get to the U.S. now. And they said nobody gets away without paying it.
I know it's happening, but it's hard to believe those kind of numbers because everybody coming is poor. They don't have the money.
Right.
Now, what happens is, one family makes it here, gets the job done and money back home, and over time, that's how they get the rest of their family up here is, by somebody else who's already here working and sending money.
Right. The other thing, and they interviewed a couple people. That one of the things that is happening, people in these countries are willing to sell everything to raise the money to get here. So they are literally now penniless, homeless, whatever they have with them is all they own, and they've sold everything to make this trip. This one coyote was generating like $1.5 million a week. One person.
Yeah. Well, I watched a John Stossel interview with a woman that is running for president of Guatemala because she's libertarian, and I guess she's got like a social media presence, YouTube, all that, and she's really exposing the hidden side of socialism. And it's not that it's hidden, it's that it's always this new idea, well, this time it's going to be better. We're going to change this one little thing and it's going to work. And how it has never worked and it's never going to work.
Right.
That was a really good interview, and I don't even remember her name, but
yeah,
she's running for president in Guatemala, and it's going to try to make that country libertarian.
And that seems to be happening more and more in a lot of these South American countries now. Maybe we should pay attention, because the pattern on these South American countries is they were capitalistic and succeeding. They became more socialistic and they are failing miserably, like total economic collapse in some of these countries. And then finally it gets bad enough that they're willing to try something different, and it immediately starts to turn their economy around when they go back to being capitalist again.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing how different there is from one to the next, and
yeah,
it doesn't even take a lot of capitalism. I mean, it's just a percentage of it really changes the whole outcome.
Yep. So I don't know. Seems like there's a lot going on, and it seems like with such a goofy election, but I trying to predict anything is just pure speculation. My point is, when we are talking about this kind of stuff this often, and it's now making the mainstream, it's time, if you're not prepared, just get prepared. Things could get pretty ugly, and you can make it a lot better for yourself if you just try to anticipate some of these things.
Oh, well, yeah, like I say, I've got enough cash to always, buy enough fuel to get home from, well, even further away than I actually go. But, I mean, if the price of fuel skyrocketed, then that would change the formula. Carry enough food in the truck to make it a whole week without having to worry about stopping anywhere, and even carry a roll of toilet paper if I need to just use the woods. I'll get by.
That's right. That's right. One of the biggest challenges, really, and today is the issue we need to pay attention to. It's not that hard to prepare yourself. You're going to be 1,000 miles away. You just talked about it. Cash, food, water, some emergency equipment, things like that. That's pretty simple. Take some time, put that stuff together, and then you can kind of forget about it. You should probably make sure your family at home is prepared for things. That's not that hard to do either. One of the bigger challenges, and I don't really know what the answer to this is communication. If communication goes down and you're, 1,000 miles away, that's challenging.
No. Yeah. I don't know of another solution for that other than for internet-based, satellite, so that at least if there's a possibility communicating that way. Right. But just for my business use, I don't see a reason to have Starlink here in the truck, but
correct.
It certainly would be nice.
Right. Now, the one thing I'm kind of looking into and playing around with a little bit is ham radios.
Yep.
That would be the emergency backup communication system. I mean, it has been. It's designed that way. That's part of what the system is for. So I'm playing around. I have these. I bought a Baofeng, I think. I'm not sure how you pronounce that word, but when you look up handheld ham radios, those always come to the top. Like, that's the one to have. But the whole ham radio thing's kind of complicated.
Oh, yeah. It's not simple. I dabbled with it a little bit many, many years ago, but I didn't even scratch the surface, so I can't say I know much of anything about it. So
there's
a lot to it.
There are some other devices on the market. and I may look into these some more. Not necessarily satellite-based phones. Those exist. They're pretty darn expensive. There are some satellite-based text communicators that might not be a bad idea for drivers that are always away from home, where this is always going to be an issue for them. Some of those are becoming fairly inexpensive.
Yep. Yeah, and they have, I don't know what it's called, but one of the hunting podcasts I listen to for the guys that get way out in the wilderness, there's emergency satellite services that are way cheaper, but it's not made for regular communication.
Right.
It's made just for an emergency to send out a signal.
Exactly. Those are the kind of things I'm talking about. Those are starting to become affordable.
Yep. So, well, if you did get phone lines opened up, then I'll let you move along because I don't really have anything important, but...
All right. Yeah, we've got some calls, so we'll check them out. Let's go to West Virginia. Danny, welcome.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey
Glad
there.
you're feeling better.
I'm not 100% yet, but I am feeling better. Thanks.
Well, you'll get there.
Yeah.
Finally made it up to Pittsburgh Power. They had a special there. Pete had mentioned a while back that new to me truck inspection.
Oh, yeah.
And now my truck isn't new to me. I've had it a couple of years now, but I was wanting to see if there was any issues there. The dyno run I was kind of curious about. Now I was kind of disappointed, mainly because they didn't find really any issues. This is the 2003, 2002 build ISX, so it's all pre-emission. 450 horse, 1650 torque. On the dyno run, it put down to the wheels 361 horsepower, which is right there at 80%.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's one issue I have. Should have been higher. I've got the full tilt manifold on here, along with the fleet air filter. I don't know what they're supposed to add. If it, maybe 10, 15, 20 horsepower. I'm not sure. But for me, neither one of those has really any benefit.
Yeah, see, we've got to be careful with this. We've dealt with this for years and years. You can't always recreate things on a dyno. A dyno is not a real-world run at all. There's all kinds of factors that don't come into play on the dyno itself. One is aerodynamics, any kind of rolling resistance. None of those things come into play. So we can't always trust a dyno that it will show us these differences. And then as far as something like a fleet air filter, I've seen some engines and designs where the fleet air filter makes a huge difference because that particular truck has got a really restrictive system. Then I've seen other models where the fleet air filter doesn't do quite as much for airflow because that truck already flows pretty well. So there are so many factors here. Now, the full tilt manifold, I have no idea. I don't deal with that manifold. I know the process, and I do know that process helps. There's no doubt about it. Both of those things, by the way, are all about airflow. The fleet air filter and the manifold. One is about airflow into the engine. The other one's about airflow out of the engine. But this idea that we're always going to be able to see a measurable difference on a dyno just doesn't work in the real world. And yet we know that the fleet air filter improves fuel economy. We know it without a doubt. We know that when you polish and coat the manifold, there is a benefit there. We've proven it over and over. Even the OEM tells you that. There's a formula. When you can improve airflow by X, you will improve this by X. There's a formula for it that comes right from the OEMs.
I know, and I know from racing, engines and stuff there, it just seems to me like it should have at least showed a little bit. They were really busy, and I did talk to Leroy.
Hey, Danny, here's something else we have to remember. You are basing this on the fact that we're saying it's this much, it's supposed to be this much horsepower, and we have this much showing up on the dyno. That's roughly our 80%, but that 80% number is not set in stone at all. So there's a big variance there. So we can't measure some of this stuff accurately enough. But here's something else that could be going on. You're assuming that prior to putting on those two things, this truck was fully operational and was putting out 80% of its horsepower then. It may not have been. It may have been putting out less.
Got me there.
You would have to take them off one at a time and put it back on the dyno again. And you don't know that those two things didn't change this truck because you never tested it prior to them being on.
Right. Yeah. I was hoping that they would have found something here because I'm still working, trying to get the fuel mileage up. And I've still got some things. I wanted to have the engine looked at so I know there was no codes. And so as far as all that goes, oil samples, the engine's running 100%. I wanted to get that out of the way before I start doing any other mods. But anyway, at least I got up there, and Bruce wasn't there. I think he's out doing his snowmobiling.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, it was a pretty neat place there. I got to see how that dyno machine thing works with that arm on the fifth wheel. It's pretty cool.
Isn't that an awesome setup? Anybody who's ever put a Class 8 truck on a dyno, a traditional dyno where you chain down the axles, and the process takes a while to get a truck on, to get a truck off. It's never as secure as you'd like it to be, and that's always been a big issue. And so I don't know if you remember the story. That was designed by somebody you've heard on the show probably many times. And then Pittsburgh Power had that built. It's the only one like it. There's nothing else like it. But it's really incredible to watch how much better that system is on the dyno than the old chain down setup.
Yeah, I talked to Leroy about a tune, but I'm going to hold off on that because he had said that that you may or may not get any fuel mileage. The power would be nice. I've got that money can go towards some other things to increase the fuel mileage, and I'd like to get up I-7 at least. Right now, I'm still at like 6.8.
Oh yeah. There's got to be some room in there truck somewhere.
Yeah, but if I don't talk to you between now and Louisville, I'll see you there.
All right. Sounds good. I'll look forward to it. Hey, I'm starting to see reports now. I didn't even think about this. We've talked about how this cellular outage could be affecting telematics in trucking and ELDs and scheduling software. And but there's another industry that is being hit really hard by this right now. It's the gig economy. Uber, Lyft, Instacart, DoorDash, all of those services run on the cell phone and the cell phone service. So they are shut down completely right now. I do have another report. Somebody who has two phones, a work phone and a personal phone, both on AT&T. One works, one doesn't. That just seems really odd. All right, let's go to Missouri. Paul, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. I just had two quick questions for profit gauges.
Sure.
For my 23, I sold my Freightliner, and now I'm saying it out loud. It's probably dumb, but the sale would go as a income, and whatever I used for the down payment would show as an expense, right?
If you were going to record it, it would. I choose not to record that kind of stuff in profit gauges. Doesn't really give you any valuable data, and it just creates work. Buying and selling equipment doesn't really affect your day-to-day cash flow. It affects your tax return at the end of the year. So I just tell people, look, set the documents aside in your tax folder, and your accountant will deal with those transactions on the tax return, but I really don't want them in my accounting.
Okay. And the other question I had is I had some warranty work done on my truck, and at the time they didn't check to see if it was under warranty, and turns out it was. So I think I did it right. I threw up the payment there as an expense, and when I got the money from Volvo, I just threw it in as a reimbursement.
That's
Is that
perfect.
the correct way?
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay. That's all I had questions for.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Saskatchewan. Austin, welcome.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. What can I help you with today?
Well, I just really want to thank you for everything you've done. You really made me, realize my business is. I never took track of anything until I started listening to you. My business definitely can improve, and I guess I learned a lot from you. So
good.
I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I look forward to seeing you at the CMC. I'm hoping I'm going to make it. I mean, I'm going to Alaska right now, so hopefully I can make it back.
Wow.
I think I can.
Well, good.
It's in March, like the
21st,
March, isn't it?
20-something,
Okay.
21st, 22nd, somewhere around there.
Okay, yeah, I should definitely make it. That's all I really had today. I just wanted to thank you for helping me out.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for the call and the feedback. I appreciate it. That call is also part of the Austin's part of our coaching program. So I've spent quite a bit of time in the last couple of weeks with Austin, and Austin has taken full advantage of the program. He got involved, he got organized, he got data to me, we started working on things, and it's paying off. The coaching program is really kind of one of my favorite things now. I really enjoy the coaching calls every week. So if you are interested, we do coaching for just about anything you've ever heard me talk about. And I mean that's the point of being in the coaching program. You get to pick and choose what you want me to help you with. And it could be a lot of things. I mean, business, money, personal finance, your retirement accounts, taxes, fuel mileage, maintenance. We do health, so anything about health. Look, if somebody wanted to ask me about gardening or homesteading or being prepared like we're talking about today, those are all things I would help people. The program is crazy cheap, really, and you're only committed for 1 month at a time. You start and stop anytime you want. If you're interested, you should get signed up. You can call our Tribe Care team, or you can go to letstrucktribes.com and sign up there. Let's go to San Antonio. Mark, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning. Hey, I'm sure you know about this guy up in San Antonio, this truck driver that got loose the other night after the Trump verdict in New York City. How I've talked to 10 drivers, and we're not going to haul anything to New York City, and we're going to starve them out.
Right.
And the press picked up on it, the right-wing press, the Trump press picked up on it, and now it's like, they all feel like they want to put it all on the truck drivers. Truck drivers, we can't protest it. The truck drivers have to do it. And I told some of these people, of course, they didn't listen to me. I said, this isn't going to amount to anything. And, as soon as they would raise the rates a tick, everybody would be hauling in there because, anybody that's got any common sense, they're not going to turn down revenue on your routes to go, for Trump. That's crazy. And then it's like the whole population, everybody, this one sector of Twitter gets up there and says, they're going to boycott and they're going to shut them down and it's going to show them. And I'm like, it's not going to show them. It's not going to happen. And it's like it never happens. And it's like these people, they worry about protesting this instead of running their businesses, which I don't really care. That's their business. But it's like, it's not going to happen. And I know you know what I'm talking about, right?
Well, yeah, the media picked up on this. Look, and I still don't even understand how some of this stuff happens. You see this guy, this Chicago Ray guy. I should probably go look before I say this number. From what I gather, this guy's a day cab driver in Chicago. Like, he has nothing to do with New York, as far as I can tell, if this is being reported accurately, because there's all kinds of accusations that supposedly he had he made the claim, I don't want to be the face of this protest. I'm not going to go on podcasts. I'm not going to try to raise money. I was just stating my opinion. And then there was a claim that he took the video down and didn't want to be a part of this. Then he came out and said, I didn't take anything down and I didn't back away from this. Fox is lying because they invited me on the show and I wouldn't go. That's his claim now. So there's a lot of confusion, even from the guy who supposedly got this whole thing started. And it was just, why did this thing go viral? Well, one of the things I look at, this guy's got like hundreds of thousands of followers, but I can't figure out why.
275.
What's that?
Well, because all he does is tweet politics, and it's like he's only had the account since, like, I want to say 2017 or 2015 or I don't know. It's listed on the account. I looked at it yesterday or whatever. It crossed to my timeline again, and I'm like, this guy doesn't even represent traditional trucking, and it's just like I didn't even know he was a day cab. I thought, and I'm thinking, I bet you don't go to New York. I mean, I just thought because I didn't. But I'm like, I bet you don't even go near New York City, but yet you're going to run your mouth about this and stir people up, and people pick up on it, and then the media, the Trump influencers pick up on it, and they just run with it, and then it's like everybody gets in a feeding frenzy over it, and I'm like, this isn't going to happen. This is nothing.
What percentage of over-the-road trucks actually ever make it to New York City?
Well, very few, because they have all this last mile, because nobody wants to go to New York City, period, because of the congestion and the way the city's built.
You almost can't. I mean, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Where the one time in my career that I actually made it into New York City itself was an absolute nightmare. I had to double park on the street and unload double stacked pallets with a pallet jack. It took me like 7.5 hours. It was a horrible experience. The city is not set up for over-the-road freight. So most of this stuff is not ever put on a 53-foot trailer going to New York City. That's not how the system works.
Yeah, it doesn't fit. And these people, it blows my mind how stupid these people are. And it's like, and then the general public says, oh, let the truckers do it. And I told this one lady, I believe it was a lady, I said, why don't you quit your job and go protest?
Yeah.
You're asking these people to quit their job and go protest. I'm like, why put it on somebody else? Do it yourself. Don't ask somebody else to do what you want.
And here's the other thing, and the Chicago Ray guy was making a big deal about this. When they start on this attitude of, well, you better pay attention to us because we'll shut down the whole damn country or the economy. That's his attitude right now. That is a horrible attitude. That should not be how you approach this. But it doesn't even make sense, because I could say the same thing. What about all the people who work in the fuel network? If they decided to stay home today, the trucks aren't going anywhere whether they want to or not. There are lots of groups of people who could shut down our entire economy if they could get it organized enough and chose to, but why would you?
Well, nobody's. Why sacrifice? My question was, why would these people want to sacrifice their business? And then I told somebody. Of course, nobody responds to this, because when you use logic or whatever, it's like, okay. So people stopped going to New York. What would they do? They would immediately raise the rates. And with the rates repressed how they've been, people would just pick that right up and go with it.
Of course they will.
And they don't understand that. It's just.
I don't know what the number is, but the vast majority of people driving a truck or doing any job, this just doesn't have to do with truck drivers, the vast majority of them are not paying attention to anything that's going on in the country or politics anyway. They're just trying to survive. Most of the people that are going to end up taking freight into New York City have no idea that anybody's protesting anything.
No, because if you're running your business like you should be running the business, you have no time to sit there and have 275,000 Twitter followers. I mean, that just, and if you look at that guy's timeline, it has nothing to do with trucking, nothing to do with transportation, everything to do with politics, and he's obsessed with Trump. Like, he can carry Trump's water. He's basically really a nobody, but he thinks he is, and and it's just, and then the stupid media is like, oh, they're going to shut down. No, they're not. They are not.
Hey.
They're not. They're not. Nothing's going to happen.
No.
So-
You know why I put a lot of thought into this because I've watched these people who their only shtick online is politics. That's all they ever post about. That's all they ever talk about. These accounts get huge followings, though. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. And yet, like you said, this guy does nothing about trucking whatsoever, nothing I could find. Everything is just purely politics. Here's one of the reasons why I think this actually works for people. In politics, there is no right or wrong. There's just opinions. I mean, really, when you think about it, we'd all like to think that our opinion is right and it's the better way to do things. But in politics, there really is no right or wrong. I believe it's one of the reasons why politics is the biggest topic that we debate, because you don't have to worry about being wrong. It's just your opinion.
That's it. You're right, 100%. That's all it is. Yeah, it's like one day you're right, one day you're wrong, somewhere in the middle or whatever. That's why I've come to the conclusion. It's like whenever the right says everything is like this, the left says everything's like that. It's somewhere in the middle.
And we'll never,
is.
ever solve it or agree. This is why you see these giant followings with these people that just pound politics all the time. They can never be wrong.
No. And they pound it, they pound it all the damn time. And that's what they do. And then, but this guy, they get on there and it's just like, they said, well, we're going to shut down New York City and make them starve. It's like, you're not.
No, I agree. Hey, Mark, I just looked at the clock and I remembered I got to wrap up these calls before the top of the hour, so I'm going to move along. Iowa, Wayne, welcome.
Good afternoon, Kevin, or good morning. I'm on AT&T with my phone, and I can communicate with you. But my ELD is through Samsara, and it uses AT&T, and I got a backup on there to where I'm using my data, but it's down on AT&T, the E-log.
That's bizarre. It seems to me like if AT&T is down, it's down because the signal is not getting out. How can you be holding two AT&T phones and one's working and one isn't? That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know. My phone's on a 5G and my tablet's on the LTE, so I don't know if their LTE part of the network is down, their 5G part is up. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah,
when you brought it up, I automatically went over to the Wi-Fi and kicked it onto the Samsara system, and the E-log went down, so I had to go back to the way I normally run it.
Yeah, you may be onto something there. LTE is the legacy system, and 5G is the newest system. And some devices can't read both. Some devices can only connect through either the 5G or the LTE. So if the LTE system were to go down, or if the 5G system goes down, then some older devices that don't use 5G may not be working. That may be what's going on.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you for certain, but when you brought it up, I just thought I'd check it out and give you a call back. And Samsara is a big ELD provider out here, and they use AT&T network.
Interesting. Yeah, I think, I don't know how big of a deal this is going to turn out to be. It might not be anything, but this, if nothing else, this should be a wake-up call about how vulnerable we are to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I brought it up to my wife since we're on the Samsara ELD and it's on AT&T that maybe we ought to switch our cell phone service back over to Verizon, so that way we're on two different systems. And this right here is making my mind up. I think that's what we're going to have to do.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea to think this stuff through and try to be as prepared as you can be.
Yeah, because communicating with her, if I don't talk to her for a few days, is not that big of a deal. But ELD going down, and you know, if your ELD's down and you have to go on paper logs. It's a big hassle through the scale.
So you're right, that's a big hassle, there's no doubt. What if the fuel card network goes down or the payment system goes down and you can't even buy fuel? How much of a hassle would that be?
For me, all I have to do is find someplace to buy gold because I carry quite a little bit of gold with me for a backup. Like you always said, you make sure you have some backup plan, and my backup plan is gold.
Interesting. Why not just cash?
What happens if something happens with our cash economy and our cash falls?
Well, so if you want to be really prepared around this topic, here's the way I would approach it. You are correct. I don't know how the cash system could fail. Cash is cash. Gold is technically just another form of physical cash. I mean, there's nothing special about gold. Gold is just gold. It's just a symbol. Over history, we've used bread for money and wheat and all kinds of weird things, grains, and it's just a symbol of value. A dollar bill is a symbol of value, just like a gold coin would be. Now, I know there's this thought process that somehow gold is more stable, but I don't understand where that thought process comes from. Nobody's ever been able to explain to me why gold would be more valuable. What's the difference? I have something, I need something from you. We need a way to exchange goods. That's what money does. It simplifies things. But I don't see how gold is any different than cash. But if you like the idea of holding gold, think about this, though. Right now, today, you need to go get fuel, and the payment system is down today. I promise you there is no place in the country you're going to be able to buy fuel with gold. But you would be able to buy it with cash.
Yeah, but I carry cash with me too. But
well, good. That's
my big backup for gold.
That's kind of what I'm getting to. Is if you want to hold gold for some reason, go ahead, but don't ignore cash, because cash is going to be king when you need it the most, and people are going to look at you and go, "Hell, I'm not taking that gold. What am I going to do with that?"
Yeah.
All right. I've got one more call I've got to get to before we've got to hand this over to the Becketts. Let's go to Ohio. Joe, welcome.
Hey, Kevin. I listened to your show yesterday. That was crushing on the health scenario. Anyway, the weekend before last, Kim Commando had a buddy of hers on that is running a format on the internet called Don't Die. I was wondering if you'd heard of that.
I have not. What does that mean?
Well, Kim Commando is a computer guru from way back. She has a 3-hour show every Saturday.
Yeah, I remember her show from before people even knew what the internet was.
Yeah, so she's really cool. I really like her. Anyway, one of her buddies, what he does is he goes out and saves businesses. He's some kind of a business saver, corporate, so he's got a lot of money. So what he's on a format to figure out how you don't die. And he doesn't mean you're going to live forever. What he means is stop doing things that are bad. And as the interview ended, and he's got all this on the internet somewhere, I don't know where he's doing all the tests that you talk about and stuff like that. But as the interview ended, he said, there's 3 things he has figured out. Don't smoke, don't drink, go to bed at the same time every night. Also, he said when he gets up, he waits 3 hours and he eats once. And he's doing all this monitoring of his blood and his oxygen and heart. He's got a lot of money. He's pouring everything into it. And that's what it's called. It's called Don't Die. I haven't looked for it yet. I just want to know if you heard about it.
I haven't, and I think he's missing the single most important factor, though. It's not that I disagree with don't smoke, don't drink, go to bed at the same time. Those things are important, but I promise you this. You could do those things religiously, never miss it once, but if you're still eating the standard American diet, you're going to die just the way everybody else does. Those things are not enough to make up for a poor diet.
Well, he never got into that. But what he was saying
and that's kind of my point, Joe, is that if you address this that way, by telling people, don't drink, don't smoke, go to bed, and you're going to live a whole lot longer, it's just not going to happen. There may not be much of a difference at all. I'm not saying that those things aren't correct. They are. But when you approach it, that's the first thing I hear out of your mouth. That turns me off because you totally skipped over the most important thing you should be talking about.
Well, he's got all kinds of protocols on there. I haven't seen them yet. But what they were talking, what he was trying to get across to Kim Komando, and Kim Komando apparently is pretty excited about it, is what you don't want to do is shorten your life when technology, if you can stay alive long enough, technology might kick in long enough to find out why you might die early and fix it. So don't hurt yourself. I think that was the bottom line of what he's trying to do.
I get it. But again, he failed to address the single biggest way that we hurt ourselves. It's with our daily diet. If you don't address that, none of this other stuff is going to matter. That's my point.
Well, that might be in there. I don't know. I just caught that interview, and pretty much what he was saying is what he thought was the main point that a lot of people, what brings them out in their stress point, is they're going to bed at the wrong time, they're getting up at the wrong time, they're eating at the wrong time, they're smoking and they're drinking. In his opinion, that's killing a lot of people.
And again, you can't argue those things, and I'm not. What I'm arguing is you can fix all of those things, but if you don't fix your diet, it's not going to matter. And I can tell you that the sleep thing about, or when you eat, those things are really, really minor factors in health, and there's no proof that is that big of a deal. And even if it is, look, I talk a lot about sleep. I know how important it is. But try, as a truck driver, try doing what he says. It's just not part of our lifestyle. So you're not really going to do that for a lot of people. They are going to work odd hours. Their schedule's going to change. And again, maybe this guy does talk about diet, but when somebody comes to me and says, here's all he says you have to do. Don't drink, don't smoke, go to bed at the same time, you're going to live longer. Yeah, you're really not.
Well, I honestly don't know what he's doing, but apparently Kim Komando's hot on it. I don't know how many tests he's doing, but he's got the money. He's throwing it in there, and he seems to think he can prolong his life, and that's a personal quest of his. And he's still working. It wasn't that long of an interview, but
I addressed this the last health conference I went to in Vegas with Dr. Wolfson. The whole point of that conference was to extend lifespan, and I said I'm not going because I believe anybody can figure out how to extend lifespan. I'm going because Dr. Wolfson invited me, and I wanted to hang out with him, and I'm sure I'll learn something down there. But I just think that whole concept is kind of a waste of time. First off, how is this guy ever going to prove that what he says works really works? How do we know that his lifespan is impacted by this? How do we ever test that?
But he's got a lot of money.
Okay, you got $1 gazillion. Tell me, with all that money, how do you test this? This is not a money issue. Explain to me how you would prove that something I'm doing at age 20 actually impacts what's happening to my lifespan. How do we prove it? We can't take the same person and go back 60 years and choose different things and then compare the two. You can't do this. How do you ever prove that any of this stuff works to extend life? Now, I can make all kinds of claims that this will improve your health today. We can prove that. There is no way to prove any of this stuff extends life.
Well, I've called you before about my problems with charting my health supplements, what I do, and all the rest of that. And every time I show it to somebody else, they get mad. Every time.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, I'm sitting there showing them, this is what I eat. These are my supplements. This is what I eat. This is how I eat. Every time I show somebody my health charts, they get mad. And some of it, they're too lazy to do it. Some of it, there's jealousy. I don't know what it is, but people see me healthy. And every time I show them my charts, they get mad.
I don't understand that. I don't know what that is.
Well, that's me investing the effort into it, and they're not. They're just going over there eating popcorn.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying we shouldn't extend effort to be healthier. It's what I talk about all the time. But to me, there's a huge difference between doing things that we can prove make us healthier right now, we can measure it, and trying to prove that doing this or that is going to make you live longer. There is zero way to prove that.
Well, I honestly don't know what he's doing, but Kim Commando's all over it, and I thought maybe I'd just throw it at you. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there doing, and let's think about this. Kim Commando, we both know she's a computer geek. She's a technology person.
Yes.
What does that have to do with health?
Well, I don't know if they're tied together in their computer systems. That his test is D3 test, K2 test.
So what? So what if they are? I mean, there are thousands and thousands of practitioners out there doing all this stuff now. I'm not hearing anything unique about this guy. And honestly, I don't expect to hear anything unique. There is nothing unique. Eat real food. And real food is mostly animal products. I mean, the longer I do this health thing, the easier it's getting. This is not complicated. There's nothing really special or new out there about any of this stuff.
I went into the doctor screaming for a shoulder pain, and he was telling me it's unique and all the rest of it. Then I saw an ad for people who have shoulder pain. That's when I started following your protocols, and that all went away.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That this isn't. We're not going to find out anything really complicated. We're not going to learn a whole lot of really big new stuff about health. We kind of know it. Diet, we've got figured out. Lifestyle, we understand how unhealthy our lifestyle is. Trying to avoid all of those problems of lifestyle is far more difficult. Trying to avoid EMFs and technology and stress and light pollution and chemicals and forever chemicals, and it's virtually impossible to avoid those things. The best we can do is minimize them. Hey, Joe, I got wrapped up in that conversation, and I realized I went over time, and I've got Kevin Beckett hanging out, waiting to start rolling toe. So I'm going to wrap up this show, and Kevin is going to take over. So you can just keep dialing right now. By the way, we're not restarting the show. So if you've got questions for Mike and Kevin Beckett and Rolling Toe, start dialing 855-950-3835. All right, we will see you back here tomorrow for Trucking Technology and Efficiency. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy always. Do the hard work and master the journey.